Hello everyone! Today is my June wrap up and I want to make it a quickie because I have a lot of things to do and I don't want this video to take like 2 hours to render. This video can be 5 minutes long and with my internet it takes 5 hours to render. I'm not even joking, that is a travesty. Anyways, I read 8 books this month. I have to read 8 books a month for my Goodreads challenge of reading 50 books. I actually reached 50 books, so I'm officially halfway through that challenge, and I'm 1 book ahead of schedule, and that's not gonna stay like that very long because I have this 600 plus page book to read. I haven't even started it. I gotta get started on that. Regardless, first up I have the Winners trilogy. This trilogy is very hard to talk about because slavery. This first book in particular, so I can't really summarize the book other than the fact I quit it. This first book, we are following our main characters, Kestrel. That's how the audiobook said it, so her name's Kestrel. We're following Kestrel as her and her best friend go to the market, and somehow they end up in the slave portion of the market where Kestrel ends up buying our other main character as a house slave, and his name is Aaron. And everything just unfolds from there. I don't want to spoil anything because I just love the direction of all of these books, where all of them go. I will say that The Winter's Kiss was my favorite book in the series. I read it in 2 days. I could have read it in 1 day. I just didn't want to put it down. But I love the romance. I love all the character development. The world building is great. I love the fact that our main characters are intelligent and there's strategy being used all the time. I love it so much. I just wish these books had better covers. They're horrible. I hate them. But overall, the whole series, you're following our main characters as they try to abolish slavery, try to take down this corrupt government, and have the freedom to be together. And I love every moment of it. There's miscommunication in this, but it's deliberate. Like, the main characters make each other believe that what they want to think. They make each other believe that they don't want to be with the other or they've betrayed the other. They make them believe that because that's what they want. So it's deliberate, and honestly, it's still aggravating because you don't want the miscommunication, but it has to happen for the story to unfold the way it's happening. So this is the one time where I haven't been completely pissed off by the miscommunication. And that could be because I read a lot of Cassandra Clare books, and miscommunication is like the baseline of the plot, it seems, in every one of her books. So to have a book series where and this is the first one I've read, where miscommunication is like a big plot device. Like, it has to be there for everything to work out the way it did. And I love it. It's just so well done. All of these got a 4 stars. Winter's Kiss was the closest to a 5 stars, but I don't know. It was one of those things where when you read a book, you just know it's not a 5 stars, but it's close. So I couldn't make myself give it a 5 stars, but I kind of wanted to. So in my heart, it's a 5 stars, but like logically, I know it's not a 5 stars. It's more like a 4 stars. So that's the rating I gave it. Just know in my heart, it's a 5. So it's my favorite read of the month. Let's see. The next series I read, the Red Queen series. I still have yet to read the last book, obviously. I read The Cruel Crown, which is a novella bind-up of Queen's Song and Steel Scars. Queen's Song follows Cal's mother and what happens to her before and after she becomes queen. Not enough was answered in that novella for me to at all enjoy it. It was good. It was better than Steel Scars, which follows Farley and Shade and how they become partners and everything. I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars just because I feel like all the information we were given in these 2 novellas could have just been given to us in the regular series. Like, it was important information, but in Queen's Trial, it was more important because of, like, character, not really development, but letting us know more about the character and the background and everything else, and how it affected the people after, which we didn't really get a lot of Cal, but you know, it would at least given us like more insight into his character and the king and the queen. The current queen in the series. Steel Scars, most of that world building was going to come into the books later on anyways, and it's hinted at in a few spots. But I think the most important part of the novella, if you take that out and say it is part of the series, is the only thing you gained from it is that you see that Shade and Farley are friends along with being co-workers. They actually like trust each other, where they have grown up in a world where you just don't trust. Although Shade is a cinnamon roll and he's like the best character. He's like the most loving, trustable character in this entire series. I'm sorry, allergies. My throat's cracking a lot. As for the series as a whole, I can't really, summarize it because each book has such a different path and plot that is going down. The main one obviously being overthrowing the monarch of not just Norta, but every country. And can I say, it kind of makes me sad that there's not a more detailed map of just Norta, and the fact that King's Cage and Warstorm, it may just be my copies, but those are the only copies we get a map in general, and I really could have used with a map in this book. I want a more detailed map of just Norta in general, because there's a kingdom brought up in King's Cage, and it's going to play a big part in Warstorm that is not even on the map. So I'm very confused about that, and I really don't like it. I like knowing exactly where everything is. If you're going to give me a map, give me a detailed map of where every important location is. Maybe it's not going to be important, but it's mentioned heavily in King's Cage in two of the different perspectives. So it's like, please just, where is it on the map? It gives me a general location, but not like a pinpoint location, and I'm salty about it. I've been reading a lot of books that have slavery or a close cousin to slavery. I don't know why. I think it's because a lot of the books I'm reading, I believe are fantasy, and I go into them, and it turns out they're fantasy dystopian, which is the case here as well. The case with the Winners trilogy. Then you have the Young Elites, and it's like, okay, so most of the fantasy books I own are dystopian. Got it. This is fantasy dystopian. In this book, we're following our main character, Mare Barrow, and a labyrinth of events happens to her that ends up leading her into the Silver Court during a event that I will not spoil. And in this event, she gets exposed as having silver powers, which as a red she should not have. So in this book, we're following Mare as she tries to adjust to silver life when she is not a silver in any way, and having her life threatened along with the lives of her family. That is the best way I can summarize this book without spoiling major things for the plot. Because there's so much happens in this book that leads to the plot twist at the end, where if I say anything more, I know I'm going to spoil something. So I just can't. One of the big things that I love about this series, I believe this is a debut, not a series by the author, and there are so many characters. There are an unbelievable amount of characters. This is the most characters I've been introduced to in any book series I've read. And it's not just the first book. The second book, the third book, and I'm pretty sure the fourth book is going to introduce me to a plethora of characters. There's like 20 to 30 like important, well, not important, but you kind of like, you need to know their names for like later stuff. But it introduces at least 20 to 30 characters per book. And each of those characters has a role that they play in each story. Now, you may be introduced to that character, and that character will die at the end of the book. But more often than not, they don't. And if you're introduced to them in book like 2, and they live through book 2, you'll see them in book 3. And if they survive book 3, you'll see them in book 4. So you have to remember all of these characters. I have probably about 6 lines of just characters and like their powers or their profession. And it's for like per book. And it's just like, this is too much. But it's also not. Because for some reason, all of these characters are introduced and I can keep their names and their powers and maybe not their looks, but for the majority, their looks. Completely separated, and I'm not confused at all. And I just have to hand it to Victoria Aveyard for doing that with so many characters. I thought I would be completely overwhelmed after book 1, just all of these characters in book 1 being introduced. And I was like, I will not remember any of the members of her family. Like 9 times out of 10, the family doesn't matter anyways. In this series, it 100% does. Remember the family, because all of them are important in their own way. I'm very happy about the fact that I am not completely confused and overwhelmed by the amount of characters, because there are so freaking many. It feels like there are at least like 50 characters right now, and as of me finishing book 3, that I need to keep track of or at least keep straight in my head. Because at the end of book 3, we were introduced to a plethora of characters that came into the story while Mare was in another place entirely. I'm trying not to spoil it. But Mare wasn't there. All these characters came into play with the other characters, and we're introduced to all of them in like the last 50 pages. 50 to 100 pages, I would say. Because the last 50 pages were like bam, 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 bam. We really weren't introduced to many people after that. I think maybe 2 characters we were introduced to. And I didn't say, but I've made a kill list for this book series, which I have not done ever. I have a list of characters that I want to die, characters that have died and I'm not sad about it, and characters that have died and I am sad about it. So I'm not gonna like show you in detail, but like you can, it's right here. It's like I've made a list. I should have made it longer because the kill list just keeps on coming. And sadly, the dead but not sad about it, just it's not moving very far. I said The Cruel Crown was a 1 star. Red Queen's like a 3 stars. Glass Sword is like a 3.25 stars. And King's Cage, which I just finished, is, I give it a 4 stars on Goodreads, but it's more like a 3.5 stars. But I feel like it's closer to a 4 than a 3, just in comparison to the rest of the books in this series so far. Like, that rating may change just because, like, I am, at this moment, it's fresh in my mind, and I'm comparing it only to the books, the rest of the books in the series. I'm not comparing it really heavily to all the other books I've read. I think it would still stand at a 3.5 stars regardless, but, like, would it be more on the 3 side or the 4 side? I am not 100% sure. So that's all of the books I've read this month. I'm sorry I couldn't talk to them in greater detail, but it is so hard to spoil things for these 2 series in particular. Red Queen and stuff, just because it feels like anything I say is a spoiler, because there's so many like little tidbits of information that are just like spiraled throughout. Something that can seem completely irrelevant is super important to maybe not the overarching plot, but to the characters, and I don't want to spoil that. With the Winter's Trilogy, the plot is very simple, but the point they get from, how they get from point A to point B is not simple. So all you need to really know is about them trying to abolish the slavery of this very corrupted government. That's all you need to know really going into this book, other than the fact that slavery is involved very heavily. It's one of those series where I went into it blind, and I kind of want other people to go into it blind. It's like, don't pay attention to the cover and just go into it. It's so good. I loved it so much, and I'm really sad that I didn't read it when it came out, because I think I would have, well, actually, I may have enjoyed it more, but I may have also not been able to appreciate it as much because I haven't read as much. And I really do appreciate this trilogy. And it's also, I will say the Winter's Trilogy, I will most likely reread. The Red Queen series, probably not, at least not anytime soon, because it's such a long series. Like, the last book is over 600 pages. I'm not looking forward to that. But yeah, this is the end of this video. I read a lot of books. Ha cha 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 cha. Hopefully, I can read just as many next month. Maybe more. Yeah, guys, I'm going a little bit insane. So I'm just going to leave this video here. And I will talk to you guys next month. I had a video planned for like a mid-year review. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. If not, I got anxiety and I just didn't want to do the video. And I can't really control that. So I'll see you when I see you. Bye!